In this lesson, we'll take a look at adding wrinkles and folds to give some realism to our dinosaur. So we see we have these sort of divisions here, and we've got the main structure in place, but to really make this a little bit more realistic, we want to add things like wrinkles and folds to the skin. And so what we really want to be able to see is a smoothed version of this. We are building it to be smooth, but up to this point, we haven't really seen that result. So in Cinema 4D, smoothing your model and being able to see that smooth is really a nice non-destructive workflow. Okay, you don't have to select your model, smooth it, and then work out on it from there. It's actually based on this hierarchy workflow as we've been working with, let's say, the symmetry generator. So what you want to do is add a hyperNURBS. It's a little ball with a cage around it. And so then you can parent anything you want to see smoothed underneath this hyperNURBS. So in this case, we actually have the cube underneath a symmetry. We can drag the symmetry underneath the hyperNURBS. So in this case, we turn symmetry on. It's going to take this cube, it's going to apply the symmetry to it, and then it's going to smooth the result. So it's going to move up in the hierarchy. So without destroying anything, we still have our simple one side model here, but now we can see the other side and we can smooth the result without destroying anything. Okay, and you can see if you select the hyperNURBS, this is the type of subdivision that it's working with, Catmull-Clark. And then you can see that there's also a certain subdivision level that you can see in the editor, and then one you can see when you render. So in this case, it's actually subdividing it one more time when you do a render. Okay, but at any time, again, you can turn that on or off. So it's a good way to see our smoothness of our model. So one thing that I want to do is start to add some wrinkles here. So let's say along the joints where the flesh is sort of bunched up, we want to start to add a little bit of wrinkling here. So we can do that by selecting our cube. We use our point mode. And let's go to knife, and I'm going to choose line and turn off single. And so I want to start from somewhere under the leg up here on the front, come up here and draw this line out. And let's go ahead and draw it all the way over here and cut it off right there. Okay. Now you can see where I've crossed over this corner. I want to actually take these 2 points and weld them together. Okay. Now I want to do one more cut here with the knife. So from that same point, or from the base of the triangle, come in here and draw down the middle of these faces that we just created. Okay. Now we go in and see our smooth. We can now take this, and towards the front, mainly, you want to take this middle line that you've created and sort of pull it out just a little bit. Okay, and that'll help to add a little bit of wrinkling there where this joint is bunched up. Okay, so if we take a look at that, let me turn off the lines. You can see how that gives us a little bit more realism. So you want to go in and add a little bit of wrinkling in these areas. Okay, areas like the back of the leg, the back of the knee is a good place, and just draw that out. If you have enough resolution in there already, you could try to just use that to come in and add a little bit of that overlap. Okay, and try to do it with just that. If you have a joint that's a little bit more open, then you can probably get away with not having a real drastic sort of wrinkle. Okay, but in areas that are really tight, probably want to add that in. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just add a little bit of that wrinkle. And you can see how those wrinkles start to add to those joints. Okay, you can add them around the front and maybe back of the front arms as well. I also want to add a little bit of resolution and wrinkling loose skin underneath the neck. So right now it's very tight. So let me turn this off for a second. We actually have geometry here that we can use. So I'm going to go ahead and go to point mode. Let's make sure we've got our cube selected, our geometry selected. So I'll go to knife, start from here, and I'll just draw down the front of the neck, and we'll cut it off maybe right around there. Okay, and then I can go ahead and get rid of that extra edge there. Just dissolve that. And now I can start to grab these points, and if you want to turn on your smoothing, you can see the result. I just want to add a little bit of sort of loose skin underneath the neck. And I'll pull this down all the way down the neck until we want it to kind of blend back in. Okay. And you don't want it to be completely regular. You want to add a little bit of irregularity to it. I'll kind of bring it up into the base of the underneath the head, and it just kind of blends everything together, adds a little bit more realism to it. All right, come in here and kind of blend that in a little bit. So this kind of stuff will help bring your model a little bit more realism. You can also start to come in, you see how this is perfectly round. I can start to show kind of the interior structure of the head, kind of make it a little bit more irregular. Okay, to show kind of the skull there. Okay, if you want to start to kind of pull some of these in to make it a little bit less perfect, less round maybe. You can kind of do a little bit of shaping, and having that hypernerbs on there will give you a good indication of the smoothness. You can see it's really squared off here. So I can just grab the front of that and just kind of pull that front out a little bit. Maybe thin out that front of that line. You can also see where things are a bit too soft. So you can see sort of the interior of the mouth there is a little soft because of the smooth. And so you can go ahead and grab your knife with a loop mode and start to come in and add geometry in there to kind of sharpen that up. So kind of coming in here and adding a line. Again, turning on your smooth. You can see that that sort of tightens things up in there a little bit. You can come in and start to add more lines in here to really sharpen up and really add a little bit of definition. If everything is really smooth, it's not going to look very good. So you want to have a contrast between the areas of smoothness and then also some sharper areas where you've got folds and things like that. So particularly here on the eye, you could come in and then, you know, once you emphasize those folds a little bit more, you go back with your knife and you could add some loops in there to really start to define that. So now if I go back and look at the smooth model, you can see it's getting a little bit more definition there along the eye. Okay, so you want to use that to your advantage. Okay, so you're going to kind of add a little bit of detail into the hands and fingers and these joints, add a little bit of those wrinkles as we looked at here. And then in the next lesson, we'll go ahead and start to add the large bony sail to the back of our dinosaur. So we'll go ahead and do that next.